Hello, and here's a new lecture when it comes to the issue of news gathering. Hello, I'm Professor Harper, and welcome to Journalism and the Law. I'd like to talk about news gathering, and actually it's the process of news gathering and where it intersects with the law. We'll be talking about other aspects of this, but I wanted to go over a few points now. So, journalists can function in what are called traditional public forums, so that journalists can gather the news where activities could be observed by passers-by. Streets, sidewalks, parks, and similar places are known as traditional public forums. Now, there are restrictions that are placed when disasters occur, where criminal investigations happen, and also on military locations. Now, some states, California, Ohio, and Virginia, do have some statutes that give journalists more access to emergency and disaster locations. The press has the ability, in almost all cases, to attend judicial proceedings. Now, this applies mainly to newspapers. It's not all media. Photographs and video and audio depend upon the laws of the state and also the judge in charge. There are non-public forums, and there are restrictions on what the media can do when it comes to things like prisons. California has placed restrictions on the number of requests to interview Charles Manson and the Menendez brothers who killed their parents. Individual states and wardens do allow access, although they're quite restrictive in Pennsylvania. Executions are not allowed to be photographed or televised. Military bases and battlefields are not public forums. And this came about in a kind of a long history. Journalists in Vietnam were allowed wide latitude and discretion to go out and about to cover that conflict, and that was because it was not a declared war. But those lieutenants became colonels and generals later on, and so there were significant restrictions in the 1983 Grenada invasion and the 1990 and 91 Gulf War. Now, what we have back then and also today is what's called embedding, which allows journalists to go with a U.S. military unit and agree to go along with their protection, but also there are some censorship issues that exist so that the military can say you cannot disclose our location, the number of soldiers we have, that type of thing. Now, ride-alongs with law enforcement officials used to be fairly open, but in 1999 there was a famous case, which was an invasion of privacy case, Wilson v. Lane, where the Washington Post was allowed to accompany police to find a fugitive. The son was supposed to be at his parents' house. He wasn't there. The parents were, taken out from the house. They were subjected to the embarrassment by, showing that the cops are in their house, and they're standing out on the curb, and they sued for invasion of privacy, and they won against the Washington Post and the cops, and so that stopped the ability for journalists to go into a place under the cover of the police going in. Now, you can go along on ride-alongs, but the cops will very clearly tell you to stay in the car and don't do much. CNN also accompanied officials from the U.S. Fish and Wildlife to look for poisoned eagles, and again, owners sued successfully. Now, these types of restrictions will also apply to drones if the Federal Aviation Administration allows the widespread use of drones. Private businesses are generally not open to the public, even though you can go in there and to a restaurant, to a pharmacy, to a grocery store. Journalists can't photograph or videotape in those locations without the permission of the store owner and generally of the individuals who you're photographing. So be careful about that one. Paparazzi Many people think that they should be restricted in terms of their ability to take photographs and video of famous people. It started with the death of Lady Diana in France in the 1990s, but Congress here in the United States has consistently failed to pass any anti-paparazzi laws. And so what many famous people have done is to get restraining orders against photographers and videographers to keep them away. So that's not everything to do with the intersection of journalism and the law, but I just wanted to give you a quick overview of some of the things that you have to keep in mind. And that's all we have for today, and we'll see you online. Thanks very much.